Welcome to CSL Metro. So this month we're looking at glow up. And when I saw that reading that Bob just did, Ernest Holmes talked about glow up. And we glow up when we allow that inner illumination to shine brighter. We have this fuller and freer expression of the divinity that we are. And so we shine. So when I was looking at this topic of inner illumination, I decided, well, I'm going to go to Science of Mind. And if you're not familiar with it, in the back of Science of Mind, there's a glossary. And the glossary tells you a lot of words that you already know, but how Ernest Holmes means those words. And so when I looked up the word illumination in the glossary, he says it's the direct contact with God. It's a complete intuitive perception. The illumination comes as we as humans more and more realize our unity with the whole. Illumination. The only God we can ever know is the God of our own inner life. And that goes along with, if you were here last night, we read an integrated version of our Declaration of Principles. And so principles were read, and then the way we expect it to show up in the world was read. And it was so powerful to hear that. And the one that has always resonated with me ever since the first time I heard it, I didn't quite understand it when I first read it, but the understanding keeps unfolding, is that heaven is within us to the extent that we acknowledge it, to the extent that we are conscious of it, to the extent that we know that that is our truth. That's inner illumination. A couple of weeks ago when I spoke, I talked about the visual I have had for a very long time, is that within each and every one of us, when we are first born, and you can see it when you see a brand new baby, if it's within those first few moments, you definitely see it. If it's within the first couple months, you still see it. You just see them glow. Even when they're crying, they're glowing. They're glowing even more then. Because they get all red. And it's just so beautiful. And what I see is that's our crystal. That is the crystal that each and every one of us is. And as we go through life, as Don Miguel Ruiz talks about, we get domesticated. What I see it is people start throwing, okay, I'll use the word crap, on our crystal. Some of it solidifies, some of it doesn't. Some of it's pretty easy to get off, but some of it is on there rock hard. And it is our job on this spiritual journey. It is our job to get all of that off. And every time we do some spiritual work, every time we recognize what no longer belongs to us, what no longer serves us, we clear off, and more illumination comes out. And we experience heaven in our own life today as we become conscious of it. The more conscious we become of it, the more stuff gets taken off us. So while I was preparing for this, one of our good friends, Reverend Sherry Cunningham, who does our marketing, happened to post on her Facebook a picture of Adam and God up on the Sistine Chapel. Michelangelo's incredible painting, where, God, that's where we have, some of us came into this teaching from another teaching that's within what we believe. But we all have that, we all can get that vision of the white bearded and, sitting there pointing at us, right? With his arm totally outstretched, pointing at us. And Adam's just close your eyes for a moment and just imagine, if you've ever seen that, just go back and look at it, because look at how Adam is. God is sitting there with the finger pointing, his whole body is leaning forward, he's reaching out, he wants to touch Adam. And what's Adam doing? Adam's laying back, kind of like, he's got his finger out, his finger's like not quite extended, and he's just chilling out, man. And so I saw that with a whole different perspective as I was preparing for this talk, as I was going through all that I needed to go through to get to last night's celebration and ceremony and to get to today's talk. Because I wasn't going to talk about that. I had a whole nother talk already done. Rodney understands. And and suddenly it was like, that's me. Adam is me. I can choose to sit there back and just chill and kind of have my finger out there. And it's like, God, if you want to touch me, go right ahead. But you know what? Until I extend my own finger, I cannot feel that divine spark. It will not. And, the engineer in me is going, there's no way that, if you if you're one of people like me who creates static electricity, even in the middle of the summer, you're very careful about how you touch things, right? So you don't get zapped. And I can sit there and choose not to extend my finger out and feel that divine spark. I can ground myself in what's comfortable, in what I know today. And there's a little short story when I had, some of you saw you didn't see Tom because he wouldn't go on camera, but my sons were here last night. And when I was carrying Paul, with all three of them, I got huge. As you can see, Paul is not a small person. He wasn't a small baby. And I got huge. And so there was one pair of shoes, because I was working in a factory at the time. I was making Corelle dishes at the time. And there was one pair of shoes that I could wear towards the end. It was the only pair of shoes. So when I got pregnant with Stephen, and I got to that same point, and I wasn't working in factories, but I was supporting factories. So I was out on the factory floor. I had one pair, that same pair of shoes still fit my feet. Wouldn't fit me until I was, like 8 months pregnant. And I tripped down the stairs on the factory floor in those shoes. And I had to decide, am I going to get rid of these comfortable shoes? And those of you who have carried a child, you know how swollen you can get and how difficult. Why am I going to go buy shoes, a new pair of shoes, when I know they aren't going to fit me after I have that child? But you know what? I went and bought a new pair of shoes. That was my first experience. And I didn't know that till actually just right now. When it came to me, that was my first experience of really letting something go, something that was comfortable, something that really helped me, but it endangered me. I could have fallen in a vat of molten glass. Yeah. I mean, nothing little. I could have been part of your Corelle dishes. So let's go back to something that we say at the beginning of this, that Bob led us in an affirmation. There's a power for good in the universe, and we can use it. And I am using it. And that is that outstretched hand of God. He's leaning forward. He wants to reach us. She, it, whatever you want to call it. I'm looking at the picture. So I'm saying he. I don't mean it has to be a he. But I'm looking at the picture, and he's really striving to touch Adam. And Adam's sitting there. Yeah. Okay. Sure. Is how I interpret it now in today's vernacular. Right? That power that we can use is up to us. It's up to us because spirit is everywhere. It's ever present. And our recognition of it is what matters. Heaven is within us, and we experience it to the extent that we are conscious of it. And it's a continual process, and it's always aligning ourselves. It's seeing what is going on. What is my trigger? What's keeping me from being that fuller, freer expression? What mud, what cement, whatever is left on that crystal that is my authentic self, that is the true self, that baby that was born. And so we can go back to what we believe. Change your thinking, change your life. It sounds so simple. It's that, and the incredible thing is it's that easy. It's that easy to change our thinking. Is changing our thinking easy? Well, maybe not, but it is that easy. And when we get that it's that easy, it makes doing this work a lot easier. Because as we change our thinking, we become a greater expression, because what we are reflections of the divine, and our thoughts create the reality that we experience. And so in the painting, Adam is reaching out. He's kind of stretching towards God, his arms out, but his finger is bent. His finger, he's not, taking the finger and putting it right up against God and feeling that divine spark. He may be getting a little, we like a lot of us, we can get a little bit, but when we actually put our finger out, when we have Reverend Trish over the course of the retreat talked about courage. It's courage that we all need. I think towards the end of the retreat, when we all had all these great revelations of this newness of for me, the word was moreness, and everybody goes, what? And that's a whole nother story. That's another talk. But it was, and she said, now what our prayer needs to be is courage. Our prayer needs to be to have the courage to do. The courage to do what we are being guided to do. And we have a tool in our spiritual toolbox. We have affirmative prayer, which is powerful, powerful. I've seen things that I would, without, if I wanted to see in my humanness, I would say were miracles. But if I go into my spiritual me, what I know is TSRW. And I'll use the word stuff. This stuff really works. TSRW. And so the other piece of that, the other tool that goes right along with affirmative prayer is a tool we call visioning. Not visualization, which is a great tool too, but it's visioning, because what visioning does is it opens us up to beyond our imagination. And if you think, one of the things that has been incredible for me is to realize that the great scientists like Isaac Newton and Albert Einstein, they use their form of visioning. They use their form of visioning to go, for Einstein, it was to go beyond the speed of light. What happens when I go faster than light? It was through visioning. And when someone asked him, if you had 1 hour to solve the world's problems, what would you do? And his answer was, I would go into the silence for 55 minutes. That's a scientist telling you that. And if you were here last night, you know that means a lot to me because I'm from a science background. So what I want to do right now, and Bobby, I'd like for you to put that slide that popped up, because I have been doing visioning. I'm taking the visioning class that we're offering. I was doing visioning before that. I have been visioning about my ministry since 2019. And it brought me to CSL Metro. And what it did is it also brought Connecticut to CSL Metro. Woohoo! And now we're all CSL Metro. Because here's the vision that I have. If you can get that up as a slide, I'd appreciate it, because it'll be easier for people to see. This is something from back when I first came into Found Centers for Spiritual Living, which was then United Church of Religious Science. I didn't even know that there were two organizations that were at that point. I don't know if they were already talking about coming together, but something got put out for us called the Global Heart Vision. And this was an org chart. This is my org chart based on that. Because at the center of our organization, the center of CSL Metro, and this is a vision that, by the way, is on the party line. I've just answered that first ring. If you were here last night, Rodney talked about, remember the days, and those of us who are old enough will, of when you did not necessarily have a private line. There were 3 or 4, depending, who knows how many on. So it would ring once for this neighbor and twice for that neighbor, and you get a triple ring for the other neighbor. And I picked up the phone that rang once, and now it's up to us, all of us here, all of us on Zoom, and everybody who's not here today, whose heart is centered in CSL Metro. It's up to us to pick up our phones and start doing this. This is not my vision. This is what I've received so far. God's at the center. And visioning needs to become our primary practice. And when visioning becomes our primary practice, then what we do is we put together the structure to implement that vision. And there's one thing that I have learned, that I've been doing visioning for a long time, more than 15 years. But something that I've learned in the class that Greg Coyle and Katrina Bornemann are teaching is that I don't have to work hard when I vision. I'm not making anything happen. When I was visioning for my ministry, I had no plans whatsoever 6 or 7 years ago to move from where I was in Connecticut. And I continued to vision every month with some visioning partners. And when my grandson, who some of you met last night, was born, and I was down here, I was here in Virginia, where I was here in the area, I was helping out with him, taking care of him after he was first born. I don't think he was a month old yet. And my son and daughter-in-law are already starting to look for childcare because there's wait lists to do anything around here. And we were all talking, and they're saying, well, should we do this? Should we get an au pair? Should we do a nanny? Should we split a nanny? Blah, 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 all these different things. And suddenly, I don't know who said it, but I was told it came out of my mouth. What if I became Carl's primary caregiver? And I'm looking around, and my son looks at me. And those of you who met him last night, you can see he's got a look that you can't just take your eyes away from his look. He looked at me and he said, "Don't say that a second time if you don't mean it." And I'm like, what if I were Carl's primary caregiver? I could not stop the words from coming out of my mouth. And every obstacle that I could see to keep me from doing that disappeared. Totally disappeared. And that's what this class that I'm in right now, that Greg Coyle and Katrina Bornemann, 2 of our emeritus practitioners, are teaching right now. I was reminded I am not forcing anything to happen. I am opening myself to allowing it to unfold and following the guidance that I get from that inner illumination that I have. I'm putting my finger out and saying, yes, I touch you, God. I'm open to that divine spark. And this is what I see. What I see is in the implementation structure, we have something we call the leadership council and the leadership team to help put that structure together. And then out of that come these spokes. And these are just things that have come to me as some of the spokes. A ministry of prayer, pastoral care ministry, education, a Sunday service team, and information technology, because we are an online community. Study group ministry, because we could have study groups all over the world. We could have study groups wherever you are, whoever you are. We can work with you. Greg Coyle had a vision, and CSL put out a grant that you needed to fill out all this paperwork, and it was for supporting taking this outside. And Greg has, along with Reverend Trish, has a ministry in Kenya, in Nigeria. Greg wants to get his Oslo, Norway ministry going again. And you know what? Put in. That's all right. Yeah, exactly. Yes, yes. Because what happened was we put it in, Greg and I talked about it, and they said, what's the worst that they can do? This just to either not respond or say no. And the best would be they say yes. And guess what? They said yes. So we now have money to support that, to support outreaches like that. So the vision is happening. It is happening. And so we'll put out a formal, not a formal, we'll put out a blast invitation to everybody, but we are going to have our first session of anyone who's interested visioning on November 6th in the evening, in Eastern time, in the evening. I think it's, I don't know, I forget what time it is. It's like 6:30 or 7, but we'll put that out. And I know the people, I made sure it was on calendars of people who, I needed to I wanted more than just me there. So we made sure that the leadership council could be there. But I want to put it out to everybody. Everyone is welcome to come and join us. If you feel that your heart is centered here in CSL Metro and you want to see this grow, not just in people and dollars, but to see it grow in consciousness and to allow whatever is trying to unfold, whatever is trying to come into form as CSL Metro from the foundation that Reverend Trish has laid. Come join us. Like I said, that we'll be putting that out. Sherry's right here, so now she knows. I'll give you all the information. So this is what is coming to me. And again, it is not my vision. It's just the beginning. I just happen to be receptive right now because I'm taking this class and I've been doing visioning I do it on a regular basis. And this is what's coming to me. So join me. Pick up your party line. It's ringing with your number of ringtones. So pick it up. And I'm doing this because party lines were in the days where you picked it up and you could get the gratification of slamming it down if you needed to. And that's true. That's true. Well, I was telling Rodney last night that party line has a lot of significance to me because when I was I don't know, I was 5 or 6 years old, my fever spiked. Like I went from normal to 105 in minutes. And so my dad was trying to call to get, back then when doctors made house calls, was trying to get the doctor online. And the teenagers that were on the party line would not get off. So he had to walk to some other neighbor's house who had a different party line to call the doctor. And after that, we had a private line. And so when I was telling my sister that, if you were here last night, she was here. She's my baby sister. She's like 4 years younger than me. She doesn't remember us having a party line because she was a baby when all that happened. So, but she definitely connected to that concept. So pick up your phone, pick up your spiritual phone and join us. Be part of this vision. So let me just say that inner illumination is about becoming the ever-present divine. It's about allowing that to more fully and freely express itself as you. Nope, not quite. I'm not done. You can just leave that up. That's all right. What I want you to do is to close your eyes for a moment and get that picture of God and Adam up on the Sistine Chapel. And I want you to put yourself on Adam's cloud. And how is your finger? What does your finger look like? Are you touching God's finger? Or are you allowing that gap to be there? And whatever it is for you, it's okay. It's okay. It just lets you know where you are. That's all. Because the fact, if you can envision yourself sitting there, that's a good thing. You're acknowledging, you're becoming more conscious of heaven. And therefore, it's going to be more in our experience. We experience heaven inside of us to the extent that we are conscious of it. So the more we can extend our finger, the more we can touch that divine spark of God, the more that we will create heaven in our own experience, and that'll bleed out, that will trickle out, that will ripple out, that will tsunami out to the rest of the world. And so in closing, I read this prayer from Ernest Holmes, and it's in the back of the book in the 507 beyond, in that area where he has all these meditations. And I invite you to go to that. If you're looking, there's so many different meditations. And this one is about the inner light. The light of heaven shines through me and illumines my path. The light eternal is my guide and my protection. In that light, there is no darkness at all. It is the perfect light, shining from the altar of perfect love. O light and love within me, thou art welcome. Light shines through me and illumines the way. And so it is.